Hey dudes, it's Larold. I've been leveling some new characters over the last several days, and I wanted to talk about what I've been doing to get through the campaign quickly and smoothly. It's been a while since we last talked about zooming through the PoE 1 campaign, and you still have to do it on every character. That's probably never going to change, so you might as well do it quickly. And so to that end, I have two builds that can fit all 7 classes. The thing that has always slowed me down in leveling is decision paralysis. I stop and I think, what skill do I want to use next? What item is better? You know, that sort of thing. And except for things that I've really practiced a lot, like Toxic Rain, it's just always been a problem for me. And the point of this video is to help other people who struggle in the same way by just completely eliminating that for them. So I've leveled 2 characters in around 4 hours each, less than 4 hours each actually, and I know what you're thinking. That's not a world record time. True, but that didn't include any setup at all, so that's like time spent buying all the items, stopping and trading with people along the way as well, assembling the gear, working on the pobs even, and also just like watching TV shows and getting up and getting drinks and stuff. So I think if you really locked in and D&D'd from the very beginning and had everything set up beforehand, I think getting under 3 hours is very reasonable. I think that would like very much be doable if I were to go ahead and do it again right now, but I have no reason to. So with that all being said, let's get into it. But first, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, join our Discord, there's a link in the description. Okay, I'm just going to hit with a couple of general tips for leveling here that I think everyone should know. Kind of some new player info, right? First off, if you're trying to go for speed in leveling through the campaign, in Act 2, I think it's best to bargain with Creighton, aka Rat Boy, and get his 8% move speed. You can also do Alira for 15% all res, but I kind of like that for like League start, and then move speed for secondary characters. At any point, once you've done that, you can swap over to get the free passive point by just trading 20 regret orbs and an onyx amulet to any vendor in the game, and that'll give you 1 passive point instead of that bonus. Another tip here that's really important is to not bother stopping to kill rares in Acts 1 and 2. They're just slow, they have a lot of health, and they're not worth your time compared to magic and normal monsters. You also want to fit in as many move speed flasks as you can and automate them with the crafting bench to cast whenever they're full. It's totally fine to have 3 or 4 move speed flasks active on you at the same time. Once you get access to silver flasks, you're high enough level to use those. Swapping in one of those isn't a bad idea. You know, you can swap in other flasks as well. Bismuth flask to help with resistances is pretty helpful too. Above all else, you just want to keep moving quickly, and honestly, you do want to kill enough monsters just to keep your flasks going, and that's kind of it. If you have a Mage Blood, that's great, you know, flop it on it, level 44 or whenever it's available, and then, I don't know, level very quickly the rest of the way, right? The 3 main things that you're balancing in the campaign are speed, damage, and survival. Speed is by far the most important. Damage is more important than staying alive. Like, obviously this doesn't apply if you're playing hardcore, but you can die and get back up and continue clearing, and it's totally fine. Now, I will just start by mentioning that Transcended Blink Arrow gems exist. Last I checked, they are the fastest way to level. I have leveled to the end of the campaign, and I think under 3 hours with Blink Arrow before. I don't find the playstyle as fun, personally, in my experience. With them, I don't know, I just felt that the speed difference was like small enough that I'm happy with the 2 builds that I'm recommending here. They feel more like real builds and also things that you can transition into the end game with. I took the first build that I'm going to talk about here all the way up to like the 80s in maps, like mid red tier maps on my last character. So, you know, that went pretty smoothly. If you want to play Blink Arrow, go for it. You know, if you really like that playstyle, by all means, but I do not. Alright, so let's start with the PoB for the first character here, and it is a Smite character, and I actually have a tree for every single one of the classes for this, and really you're trying to accomplish a couple of things. We'll go through all of them, but, you know, Duelist is kind of the main one that I'm locked in on. I kind of think of this as champion. And again, for all of these, you can play any of the Ascendancies. I just recommend the Ascendancy that I like the most, like, I like Juggernaut for Marauder. I think that's, like, the best one for the campaign, but you could definitely do, you can do Berserker if you want, right? Like, any of these will work, but I think these are the setups that work the best for the class for the given build here. So what we're doing is we're using Smite, one of my favorite skills in the game. I have 2 different skill setups here, one for Smite and one for Stormbrand. You know, that's the second build. And so Smite, I have a bit of a progression of support gems here. You know, I'll start out by using Smite. I played around with some other skills, and I actually think you should just start using Smite at level 2. Use a big, fat, 2-handed axe or mace or sword or whatever, just a big old 2-handed weapon. Once you get the Lionized Watch, just buy one from Tarkley, flop that on, put as many support gems into your tabula rasa with it as you can, and just sort of progress these or support gems. And then once you get to the point where you're able to, like, you know, age out of using Ruthless and Chance to Bleed, you will. And this is the approach I'm going with, right? Smite, Ancestral Call, faster attacks, added fire damage, LE damage with attacks, and Inspiration. Once Heralds become available, I slap those on, and I think I pretty much use those for most of the rest of the campaign. Then you kind of have a choice when it comes to auras of like haste and period of elements. I like haste for any sort of moving through zones, but if you need the extra resistances, purity is good. LE weakness is a gem you can like use on bosses. I rarely do. And then flame dash, regular dash, frost blink, those are all like good movement skills early on. And then finally, I think another tip that's just generically useful for all leveling experiences is that you can put on Clarity as soon as you're able to, like at level 10 or whatever, and just run it for a while to help fix mana, and that kind of sorts things out. So the first thing that we're trying to do in every single one of these setups, whether it's Duelist or Marauder or whatever, is we're trying to get over to a cluster jewel socket on the outside of the tree, slap in the one with nothing small cluster jewel, and put in the Hollow Palm Technique Keystone passive. This makes it so that when you're unencumbered, you get 40% more attack speed, and you get a massive amount of flat attack physical damage per 10 dexterity, like 14 to 20. So you just basically are a dex stacker. And it's really, really, really easy to be a dex stacker in the campaign. There's so many uniques that are available to equip from like pretty low levels that give you tons of dexterity, and that's basically what you're going to be going for. Then there are some other things that synergize really well with this. Precise Technique, giving you 40% more attack damage if your accuracy is higher than your max life. Your accuracy is going to be enormous. You can take some other stuff like Weathered Hunter just to guarantee that, but it's going to be very easy to be, you know, capped out on accuracy and just get 40% more damage for the whole campaign. There's a lot of other stuff in the tree as well that I've opted toward. I'm really trying to simplify the tree. So in terms of solving mana, what you're going to do is you're going to get like 1 point in life and mana leech somewhere. That'll solve your mana problems partially. And then you're just going to take as many of the mana clusters around the tree as you need to. And you can also get some mana reservation efficiency out of that. But things like Thrill of Battle or Spirit of War, these help a lot with fixing mana, and you're just basically trying to make it so that mana is like a non-factor entirely. Then the other thing that you're really like looking to get is an attack mastery wheel, so you can take this attack mastery that makes non-vol strike skills target one additional nearby enemy. Once you have that, you can drop Ancestral Call and just put in like, you know, another point into Ruthless or something, or you can keep both. Like Ancestral Call will give you more clear, but it's something that you can phase out in favor of Ruthless, or Multi-Strike potentially down the line is another support gem, although Multi-Strike's a little janky to use in the campaign. I kind of just like melee physical damage, just like melee physical damage as an option for support. Rather than like being slowed down to have like triple hits out of Multi-Strike, which is a little clumsy when you're trying to zoom through the campaign. And that's kind of it in terms of what you're looking for throughout the tree. Obviously, you're wanting to get utmost swiftness, so on any of the ascendancies that are very close to it, you'll just get Hollow Palm Technique and then take utmost swiftness to take an attribute mastery, and there you go. If you're on an ascendancy that's fairly far away from it, you can just simply anoint utmost swiftness on your amulet, which is going to be an Astramentus in every single class, right? Then the final thing that I think I just want to emphasize here is the life mastery that gives you 15% increased max life if there are no life mods on your body armor. You're probably going to be using a Tabula, and Tabula has no life mods, so that's just a 15% extra life, which is really helpful because this is a bit of a glass cannon build. All good leveling builds are going to be a bit glass cannon-y because you're optimizing for speed and damage, and that means, you know, no real room left for defense. All right, now I'm just going to show off the uniques here, and in the interest of like simplifying the gear equation of all of this, I'm not using any non-unique gear at all. You can, but that will slow you down sitting and looking at stuff. So the only thing that I ever swapped over to at any point that was like non-unique was just simply like a rare helm that had a bunch of life and resistances on it in place of a gold rim, you know, made me a little bit more tanky, but that was totally optional, definitely not mandatory at all. Tabula Rasa, pretty obvious, and then 7 League Step, also very obvious. You know, it's a super move speed boots. What can you do? Astramentus gives you a ton of stats. You're definitely going to want to anoint for, I mean, there are several options of things you can anoint for. You can anoint for Quick Step. That's kind of a really cheap option. I anointed for the very expensive version, Tribal Fury, to give you some splash damage. Very unnecessary to spend all that currency on it. You can just do Quick Step. I do have another Astramentus in here with Quick Step anointed on it, so that'll just give you some quick move speed. You know, don't need to spend a bunch on Astramentus for it to be good. Then we're taking advantage of a really good interaction between 2 rings here, and that would be Call of the Void, which was made by Ben. It makes it so that all your damage with hits chills, and then enemies that you've chilled can be shattered as though they're frozen, and that means that Herald of Ice, if you have it on, you're going to be able to shatter everything that you kill because of Call of the Void. And so this ring from Ben is just a godsend for leveling. You're just able to like blast everything all the time. So I use this 100% of the time while leveling. Now, if you're using Purity of Elements, then the downside of this, where you're able to be chilled by enemies, like all damage can chill you, that's just completely offset if you're using Purity of Elements, or if you have some sort of like immunity to chill. If you don't, then you can use Winter Weave, and that will cause chill on you to be reversed. This is a build archetype called Reverse Chill. You combine these 2 mechanics. Doesn't have to be these 2, but this is an easy way to do it. The problem with doing this while leveling is that it's pretty hard to like guarantee you hit yourself and actually have this up on yourself all the time. Normally you use something like Forbidden Right in order to do this, and you're not going to be doing that while leveling. So this is something I played around with. It's okay in the campaign. Like, I did it on my second character the whole way, and I actually did like it a lot. But you can just use like a Lit Up of All. This is a classic leveling unique. You could just use 2 of these as well. It has stats, it has damage, it has Ele Res, you know, what else do you need? And then as far as belts go, there are a lot of decent options. You just kind of want some like basic stats when you're first starting out. You know, Meganord's Girdle is decent. Belt of the Deceiver is decent. I think Prism Weave adds a lot of flat damage, which is good, and some resistances, which is also nice. And so that's basically it for this character. Like, you're just going to be running through every zone, smiting very quickly, and doing a lot of damage with that smite. It really blasts pretty hard in single target. And it also has really good clear, so it's just a really, really great leveling experience. The second build is one that I would only recommend for the 2 like primary int-based characters. I mean, I guess you could do this as a Shadow as well, but I feel like Shadow takes to Smite very, very easily, so I never played around with this with Shadow. It's a Storm brand of Indecision build, but yeah, you could definitely adopt this to Shadow. I haven't made a tree for it. I haven't really thought about it for Shadow at all. But as far as leveling a Templar or a Witch, it is a fantastic experience. And so, like I said, I have the 2 trees here, one for Templar, pretty basic, one for Witch, also fairly similar but slightly different for Witch. And the reason is because I'm kind of accentuating some of the aspects of the 2 ascendancies that I like most for leveling in the campaign, and that would be Elementalist with Liege of the Primordial. I'm a really big fan of Golemancer, and Golemancing is like really, really, really good right now. I just finished leveling a Golem character, as you can see. I got my boys hanging out with me. And I also did a bunch of Herald-related stuff. I just have all the Heralds and all the Golems available on this character right now, and I really like the way that this character came together. It just worked really, really well. It was blasting everything super hard, and especially like the combination of like Presage and Discord Artisan, weird names, but whatever, giving you like lots of damage and also being just like humongous explosions on all the Heralds of Ice was really nice. So for Templar, I go with Hierophant. I think that Conviction of Power is just like one of the best possible nodes you can get as your first ascendancy for endurance and power charges. It's just so amazing. You know, and then there's other really good stuff here as well, like Arcane Blessing, like getting, you know, like 20% more spell damage all the time out of Arcane Surge, having that up all the time. Like, I like the Mana Man build. I like it quite a bit. So yeah, I just think it's like a very fun setup. So this is ultimately what I would go with for a Templar, and so then I would of course be building a bit more around mana, and obviously not building around Golems or Heralds, right? One extra little note here. I don't think Sign of Purpose is particularly good, even though it's brand related. It's not giving you more brand damage. It's just giving you brand recall cooldown reduction, and that's not really doing a lot for us in this, so I actually would not go out of my way to get that. I'd do like Conviction of Power, Arcane Blessing, Divine Guidance, then Illuminated Devotion. That's probably the approach I would take. Maybe I'd do Illuminated Devotion third, it doesn't really matter. They all work. Inquisitor can work pretty well too. But those are the tree. In both cases, you're able to start using brands at level 12, and so that is when I do it. I just leveled with Smite up until level 12, did this same setup as I did the other character up to level 12, and then once I hit level 12, I swapped over to using Storm Brand of Indecision, and you want to make your way over to Runebinder, but you don't want to get this before level 12 because obviously it's not going to have any impact, but once you are level 12, you do want to get Runebinder as quickly as you can. And so for Templar, you know, I kind of just bounce around in this area, pick up some skills or some passives in this area, and then make my way over to Runebinder and Runesmith and get that brand mastery to give 2 additional brands. That's really important as well. And so that's kind of it for both of the 2 trees. Ultimately, just building for like a lot of lightning damage, since Stormbrand is mostly going to do lightning damage. And now let's take a look at the skills. So switch over to the Stormbrand setup here. And so we're using Stormbrand of Indecision. You can use regular Stormbrand. I wanted to show this off, actually. Regular Stormbrand does less single target damage. It does more multi-target damage. And the downside to Stormbrand of Indecision is that it snaps off of its target. Like, it only hits one target, but it does more damage to it. And then it pops off of its target like every activation. It's basically just the passive that brands have. It's this passive right here. Brands attached to a new enemy each time they activate, no more than every 0.3 seconds, right? So that's just kind of built into Stormbrand of Indecision, which seems kind of bad, except with the way that we're kind of just throwing it out into packs of enemies, and also we're getting like tons of massive clear out of the combination of Call of the Void and Herald of Ice. Once again, it actually winds up being pretty nice, like just getting that extra damage with no real downside. And then it's great for blasting bosses too. As you can see, the support gem situation with Stormbrand is a bit of a mess, and the reason for that is fairly simple. There are a lot of support gems that you're going to swap in early on. Things like added lightning damage, added cold damage, increased crit strikes, like Arcane Surge. These will be things that you'll put on at level 12, and then you will throw them to the wayside once you're able to get some of these other options in here. I think the one exception would be Arcane Surge. I think if you're playing the Elf Templar build or whatever, the Hierophant as opposed to a Witch, I think Arcane Surge may actually be worth using over some of the other options in here. In addition to that, I have Heralds set up here. I have the full run of Heralds, although I've turned off Ash and Purity. If you're playing a Templar, I wouldn't use those, but I would definitely use Ice the whole way to take advantage of the synergy between Call of the Void and Herald of Ice the whole way through the campaign. And then one of the big things that we're doing that makes this a very smooth playstyle is combining automation and brand recall. Brand recall is a skill that snaps all of your brands off of enemies and brings them to where you are. All right, here I am here in Blood Aqueducts, just kind of walking around. And what I wanted to show off is brand recall. So when brand recall goes off, it pulls your brands to you. And so what this means is that we're basically able to throw our brands out and then just kind of move through the areas very quickly, fairly quickly at least, and just occasionally throw them down and just keep moving around. And the brands will snap to us and then like jump from us to nearby enemies periodically, just simply as we passively move around. Like, we don't have to do anything to make the brands keep like snapping to new enemies. They're just moving to us over time. And also, like, we're killing a lot of enemies, admittedly, with Frostblink too. But that's pretty much it, right? You're just walking around, right-clicking, hitting Frostblink on cooldown, and everything's dying. Everything is dying. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Then for your auras, you can use, again, Purative Elements or Haste. Those are kind of the two that I go back to all the time. And then Clarity, I like to just keep Clarity on the whole time to help fix mana for this build, since you don't have like Leech or any of the passives around the tree that you get out of, like, you know, attack damage cost reduction or attack mana cost reduction. You don't get that. So, you know, Clarity will just fix it. That works. And then Frostblink and Frostblink of Wintry Blast, I'm actually like using both. You can use one or the other or both. You know, they all are fine. And then I have a bunch of golems tied in here. If I'm gonna play Golemancer, Elementalist, then I would use all of these. And if you're not, then don't. All right, now let's take a look at the uniques for this build. So this is, one advantage that this build has over the one with nothing build is that you're not required to like have no weapons and have no gloves, so you're able to equip more uniques. So I have like one little setup that I equip here at level 41 that I just really like. It's a bit of a gimmick setup, kind of a meme historically. It's combining several different meme items. Nycta's Lantern, which gives you a bunch of light radius and battle mage on these like, I guess, decent physical damage weapons, and you do want to blacksmith's whetstone these up so that they like have max phys damage on them. And then Wreath of Freesia as well, which gives you increases to light radius, also apply to like damage and to area of effect at 50% of their value. And so then you're using double Nycta's Lantern for 100% light radius. Like I'm doing light radius maxing, but it really, really works. You can see in the footage and even just me bouncing around the blood aqueducts how much damage this does all the way through the end of the campaign and how humongous my Herald of Ice explosions are. Now, prior to getting these available, right, you have to be like level 41 to equip Nycta's Lantern, so that's not going to solve everything. Like I said, I just do like 1 to 12. I do the same setup as I would for the Smite leveling build, but at level 10, you can dual wield Axiom Perpetuum. This will add a bunch of damage, flat damage to your spells. I just dual wield these from level 12 all the way up to level 41. Then I swap over to Nycta's Lantern, and that pretty much is that. You're also able to equip gloves, right? So I put on some Asenath's Gentle Touch so I can get some like temp chains and, you know, whatever. I guess I don't really care about the explosion since I'm getting Herald of Ice pops anyway, but I'm getting temp chains at least, so, you know, that's useful, I suppose, on bosses. Other than that, most of the uniques are the same. I have included a lot of like alternate uniques that you can use if you want to change things up, maybe spend a little bit less on some stuff, but like Replica Karui Ward is a really good item for any build while leveling. It gives you 10% move speed. You can eventually swap it out to an Astramentus if you want. I did so just simply to be able to like afford stat requirements. I mean, you could take some of these like keystones or whatever, these like notable passives like Agility and Might if you need to fit stat requirements. That's what they're there for. But Astramentus gives a lot of life too. Like you can see the life difference is pretty substantial. So, you know, I'm just kind of a big fan. But Replica Prism Weave gives you a lot of flat damage for your spells. You can see, like, if I take that off, it's like a 20% damage loss, and that's not even including Flask being active, 22% damage loss to take that off, so that's pretty huge. Pretty great leveling unique. Just like regular Prism Weave is also a great leveling unique for attack builds, Replica Prism Weave is great for spell builds. Alright, so that's my 2 preferred leveling setups. I really had a lot of fun with the last couple of characters that I leveled, especially with the Stormbrand character. I thought it was going to be pretty fun, and it greatly exceeded my expectations. I had so much fun playing it to the point that I'm thinking about trying to put together some sort of Stormbrand Elementalist just because I had so much fun in the campaign with this character. I highly recommend trying out both of these setups. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and say hello to me and Sunset if you haven't already. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us so we can keep making more PoE content, become a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.